Hello, friends, and welcome to Empower You 2 podcast. I'm your host, Natasha Paris, and I'm excited because you are in the building with me. You can be anywhere in the world, but you have chosen to be here with me, and I am so humbled and appreciative. Let me tell you about this show. Each and every single week, we continue to empower you to greatness that is truly going to help you, whether you are a person that have experienced a heartbreak, have gone through a divorce, or have endured levels of trauma of any kind, or you're just a person trying to rebuild their life and themselves, and now you are finally ready to live a life full of abundance, joy, and peace, then this show is for you. So with that said, thank you again for being here. I am extremely grateful. I'm excited to be on this journey with you because together we are empowered for greatness. You ready? Let's go. Hello and welcome to Empower You 2 podcast. I am your host, Natasha Paris, and I am super excited because I am going to support your journey towards greatness. So let's jump into episode 93, my friends, episode 93. And one of the things that I am big on is watching what I do, how I do it, what I say, and being intentional about everything. Why? Because, my friends, we are planting seeds. We are planting seeds in the ground of the universe. And whatever you plant, you will reap your harvest. In other words, just like a farmer plants seeds. He might plant a spinach seed. He might plant an apple tree seed. He might plant a squash or mango tree. Yes, I love mangoes. Okay. And the goal is for it to grow into exactly what he planted. And of course, when a farmer plants, and I'm not professing to be a farmer and knowing all of the terminology, but when a farmer plants, he knows that there are going to be some seeds that will not grow. But he makes sure that it is on fertile ground. In other words, that the ground is well toiled, right? The ground has lots of nutrients and it's healthy in order for that seed to grow. So using that analogy, us as humans operate in the same manner. So what am I saying? I am saying that it is imperative for you to plant good seed into the ground of the universe. And that means being in a place where you are very intentional about how you treat people. You're very intentional about what you say to yourself and to others. And also, more importantly, being intentional about how you receive information and how you receive people. I'm going to go into detail about that. So within episode 93, I'm going to talk about how to really plant good seed in order for you to be your greatest self. In order for you to be your great self, you have to be mindful about the things that you do. For example, what we know oftentimes is that when you see people who treat people negatively, they are disrespectful, they talk about people behind their back, or even to the point where they are negative towards themselves. They may call themselves, oh, you're so stupid, or you will never get out of debt. Or they will say things like to their children, you're so dumb, or geez, you are overweight, right? So those are actual universal spiritual seeds that you are planting. When you say to a child that they are dumb, they are going to eventually believe it. Why? Because you planted that seed and they will continue to hear it in their head. Just the same, when you say that you will never get out of debt, you are planting a seed in the spiritual realm which means that you will never get out of debt. You planting that seed and you consistently say it so it eventually comes to fruition. Hear me when I say, follow me, follow me. Just the same, when you treat people in a way that is unfair or you treat people disrespectfully, we know the saying, whatever you put out, it will come back to you like a boomerang. We also call that karma, right? We know that to be karma. It's the same principle. You putting seeds in the ground of the universe of treating or mistreating others, you will get that same mistreatment. What we know for sure, there are lots of people in the celebrity world, and we see it, and even at work, right, who say and do things to other people, and they may not feel the ramifications of their behavior at that time. It may come a month from now. It may come 2 months from now. It may come 6 months, a year, even 5 to 10 years, but it'll eventually come back to hurt you. And it will oftentimes be much, much more. Yes, we've seen it where a person constantly is backbiting, or a person is, at work who is, taking positions from other people or projects from other people and getting the credit. And then a year or 2 years later, you realize that the management that was supervising them, and I've seen this happen, right? Management that was supervising them is now new management, and that person is on the chopping block. Right? When they decide to lay off individuals, they'll be the first to get laid off. And you're like, what? All of the stuff that they used to do, and they don't see any connection to their behavior in the past. They're like, oh, that's just unfair. But what I know for sure, and I look back and I see and I say, it was the behaviors, the things that you did to people, and it came back. And it didn't have to come back in the same form, but it came back, and it came back harder. Yes, it came back harder. So, is that you? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how to plant good seed in the ground of the universe so you can reap greatness. You can reap all of the things that you desire and what God wants for you. Okay, so the first thing is, it is so important for you when you are being intentional about your behaviors as it relates to yourself and others. It's important for you to be empathetic. What does that mean? That means being in a place where you can imagine being in someone else's shoes. That means that you will be very conscious of what you say to other people, because you wouldn't want that to be said to you. I mean, we know what the Bible talks about, or all of the other spiritual books talk about. Be very careful how you treat others. And when you have a level of empathy and genuine understanding, there is a thought about, I'm not going to say that to them because that hurt their feelings. So I'm going to be very conscious in thinking about what I'm going to say before I actually say it. Yes. And also being empathetic towards yourself. Have some compassion towards yourself when it comes to how you speak to yourself. One of my big pet peeves, I can't stand it, is when I hear people say, I am so stupid. I am so fat. Oh, I can't do anything. I'm always messing up. Oh, today is my worst day. Be very mindful about the words that are coming out of your mouth, because guess what? You are planting seeds. And the more you say it, the more sunshine you're giving those seeds, the more nutrients you're giving those seeds, the more water you're giving those seeds. And guess what? You will eventually be exactly what you keep saying to yourself. So be empathetic, be kind. I can't stress this enough. Be kind to others, be empathetic towards others, and be kind and empathetic towards yourself. Because guess what? If you are the opposite, it will come right back to you. And don't complain When you are in that place where you're like, no one likes me. I'm always getting into trouble, right? Like your children. But you understand my point. Good things are not happening. Be mindful. The second, love. LOVE. Love your neighbor. And I know it can be very hard because you have some individuals who don't love themselves. And we'll talk about that because the goal is to love your neighbor and to love yourself. And it's hard when you are dealing with and I've often said it, we are spiritual beings living a human existence. What does that mean? You'll be interacting with other spiritual beings, and some spiritual beings are really hurting. They have been damaged. And when they interact with you, it may not always be in love, but it is hard to interact with those individuals. But what you have to remember is that you are planting good seeds. And so what would that look like? That would look like if your neighbor is rude to you or does something that is not most favorable. You can tell them how you feel, but then the next day you say, good morning, and keep it going, right? You don't have to fall victim to their negativity. You don't have to. There's ways that, you're going to have to talk yourself through it, right? Do the self-talk, which is something that I profess when I speak to my clients in the C-suite and other individuals. And when I do my workshops and other presentations around the country, I talk about the importance of self-talk, talking to yourself in your head and saying, you know what? This neighbor is not the best neighbor, but I'm going to smile and I'm going to wave and say good morning and keep it going. Why? Because it's too heavy to hold on to grudges. It's too heavy to be upset at individuals. So walk around with love, my friends. And of course, love for self. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. I know we can be our biggest critic when it comes to living this life, but it is so important for you to give yourself grace and say, you know what? I didn't do it right today, but tomorrow is another day. And wake up with a glad. My pastor used to always say that. Wake up with a glad spirit, that you're happy to be awake. You're happy that you have a reset, which leads me to point number 3. Gratitude, my friends. Plant gratitude into the universe, into the spiritual realm. When you are grateful for all of the things that are good and not so good, you'll get more good. I'm going to say that again. You'll have more great things happening to you. Because I know, especially when it comes to finances, we're looking at our bank account or our debt and we're like, oh my goodness, I want more. And we start to worry and we start to really get concerned about the fact that we can't decrease our debt. But when you look at your negative balance, you say, I am so excited about what is about to happen in the near future. And you say that out loud when that thought to be ungrateful or that thought to complain or worry, you have to drown it out with, I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for what is about to happen in my life. I am grateful for life. I'm grateful for all of these individuals that are maybe not so good and also good. Be grateful for the small things, because it's easy to be grateful for the big things in our lives. It's easy. It's easy to say, oh, I'm so grateful for this beautiful home that I have. I'm so grateful for this amazing relationship. I'm so grateful for my kids, especially when they're doing the right thing. But when they are not doing the right thing, you're like, let me find something to be grateful for. And that's exactly it. Find something to be grateful. When you are grateful, God will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. Because guess what? You're operating in faith. Oh, come on. Let's talk about it. When you are grateful for the things that you don't see, it brings about exactly what you are unable to see, but have hope and faith to believe that it's coming because you stand on the principle of gratitude. You believe it's coming, and so it does come. Just like if you believe negativity is coming, it will come. So my friends, be grateful. Have gratitude in your spirit every moment of the day. Be very intentional about the words that you speak out of your mouth, how you treat others. Because if you do awesome things, it will come back to you. I believe that. It happens in my life. How I treat people, and I find others treating me well, or, going to the grocery store and paying for an individual's groceries who is standing behind me. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I got you. Right. That's a blessing. And then I remember the moment when I had done that. And about 6 months later, someone did it for me. And I was like, yes. I received that. Guess what? Because I planted good seed in the universal law of spirituality and love and grace and mercy. And so, my friends, let's do a quick recap. What we know for sure is that it is so vital in order for us to live a great life, in order for us to receive greatness and abundance. We have to be very conscious of the thoughts that we think, what we plant in the universal law of spirituality. Whatever we do will always come back to us. In other words, we call that karma. Yes. So what are the 3 principles that we should live by when it comes to planting good seed? The first is being empathetic. Really imagining yourself in someone else's shoes and saying, you know what? I wouldn't want someone to do that or to say that to me. So I'm going to be very intentional about how I treat others. Also, when it comes to empathy, we want to have empathy for ourselves. We want to be sympathetic towards ourselves. We don't want to beat ourselves up. Number 2, love. Love your neighbor. Even though it can be tough, my friends, to love a person that doesn't love themselves, so all they do is spew all negativity. And at that point, that's when you have to step away, right? But love your neighbor, and then, of course, love yourself. Too many people are walking around this country, this planet, not in love with themselves. That's why they treat others the way that they do. But for you, my friend, my listener, following me, wanting more of this podcast, you love yourself. And if you don't, you are striving towards loving yourself and being in a place of receiving love because you want better. I know you do. That's why you're listening. I commend you. And I thank you for wanting more for yourself. Number 3, gratitude. Yes, being grateful for all of the things that you have, small and big, good and bad. And I don't like to use the word bad, good and unfortunate, right? Because if you are in the place of having a gratitude, you are more likely to receive more of the same, and if not more. Much more, because God says that He will open up a window of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you will have no room to receive. So be in the place of gratitude, being grateful for all of the things and being grateful for the smallest of things, having a car, finding a parking spot, being able to pick up your water bottle, right? Because there are people who can't. And so with that said, I hope that this episode 93 was something that you could eat from and digest, because the goal is always to make sure that you are what? Empowered for greatness, because without greatness, there is no you, and without you, there's no greatness. I'm your girl, Natasha Paris. Share this with as many people as possible, because there are people who can definitely benefit from this. Bye.